Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place where we take a massive stack of sources, articles, and research and give you the ultimate shortcut to being well-informed.
And today we're looking at someone whose career path is just, wow. So many shifts.
Exactly. We're tracking the career of a figure whose trajectory involves, really dramatic shifts across music, film, television. It almost feels like we're analyzing three different celebrities wrapped into one.
That's absolutely right. We are unpacking the full 360-degree evolution of Amanda Lee Moore, known globally, of course, as Mandy Moore.
Yeah.
The subject of today's deep dive is, you could argue, Hollywood's ultimate reinvention story.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We're tracking a massive professional evolution from a Billboard charting teen pop idol in the late 90s, famous for that sugary hit and opening for boy bands, to an Emmy-nominated anchor of a prestige television drama and a critically respected independent singer-songwriter.
Right. And our core mission here is to track the mechanism of that transformation. How does someone successfully transition from a highly commercialized, almost manufactured image, that bubblegum phase, to one defined by creative autonomy and, importantly, critical respect decades later?
It sounds like a journey fueled by a lot of grit.
Oh, absolutely. Tenacity is the word. And our sources give us the foundational facts that maybe explain some of that drive. Born Amanda Lee Moore in Nashua, New Hampshire, back in April 1984.
Okay.
She moved to Longwood, Florida, when she was just like 2 months old. Her parents, Stacy and Donald, provided a solid, maybe somewhat demanding background. Donald was a pilot for American Airlines, and Stacy was a former news reporter for the Orlando Sentinel.
Interesting. We also see a pretty rich cultural background informing her early life. Our sources mention her ancestry includes Irish, English, Russian Jewish, and even Cherokee descent. That's quite a mix.
It is, but the key early inspiration, it seems, comes from across the Atlantic. Yeah. Her British maternal grandmother, Eileen Friedman, who was actually a professional ballerina in London, that seems to have instilled that performance DNA early on.
Ah, that makes sense.
Moore started young, attended the prestigious Stage Door Manor Performing Arts Camp at age 12. She was already doing local productions, singing the national anthem around Orlando.
Right. And here is where that, almost mythical discovery moment happens, right? The ignition point for Act One.
It's kind of unbelievable. When she was just 13, singing in an Orlando studio, she was literally overheard by a delivery man, Victor Cade.
Oh, way.
Yes, who just happened to have connections in Epic Records A&R.
Well,
it's an old storybook anecdote of being discovered, which, quickly thrust her onto a path she didn't entirely choose herself.
which brings us directly to that path. Act One, the bubblegum era, roughly 1999 to 2000?
Exactly. This is the period of peak commercial saturation in late 90s pop, and the industry instantly tried to slot her into a very, very specific mold.
And that mold was really defined by her debut single, Candy, released in 1999. Now, in the U.S., it did okay, but it didn't quite crack the big numbers on the Billboard Hot 100, peaked at 41.
Right.
But looking at the sources, that U.S. performance doesn't really tell the whole story commercially, does it?
Not at all. That U.S. chart number is kind of deceptive because Candy was actually a massive global hit. It went platinum in Australia, where it peaked sensationally at number 2.
Wow, number 2.
Yeah, it cemented her as a global marketable commodity right out of the gate, regardless of, where she landed on the domestic top 40.
And instantly, she was just thrown into that pop princess arena alongside giants like Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, Jessica Simpson.
They all came out around the same time, often with similar looks, similar marketing strategies, that whole teenage innocence mixed with a dash of suggestive energy thing.
That comparison must have been constant.
It was the defining characteristic of her early career, really. The label saw a winning formula, and they just didn't deviate. She cemented her status by hitting the road as an opening act for the biggest boy bands of the era, NSYNC, in '99.
The absolute peak?
Oh, yeah. Followed by the Backstreet Boys on their tour later that year and into 2000. This wasn't just about music. It was market visibility on a huge, huge scale.
And visibility meant TV saturation? She wasn't just a singer, she became an MTV fixture.
Totally. Our sources note her work as a VJ and host on shows like Total Request Live, which was the absolute barometer of teen popularity back then.
Oh, yeah, TRL was everything.
Right, and some karaoke, and even launching her own talk show, which first was called The Mandy Moore Show before just becoming Mandy. This kind of total immersion strategy just made her unavoidable around the year 2000.
And this exposure was obviously key to driving the sales of her debut album, So Real, in 1999.
Exactly. It peaked at number 31 on the Billboard 200, quickly earned platinum certification from the RIAA that's over 1 million copies sold in the U.S.
Pretty successful then.
Commercially, yes. But if we look at the critical reception, we see the immediate friction. The critics were not exactly impressed with the originality.
They saw the formula, didn't they? I think AllMusic reviewed the album and basically suggested it sounded like it was inspired almost entirely by listening to recent hit albums by NSYNC, the Backstreet Boys, and Britney Spears. That's a pretty tough assessment.
Basically calling it derivative. And it highlights the commercial pressures of the time. What's even more fascinating, though, and really crucial to our thesis here, is how quickly the label reacted to that commercial demand.
What do you mean?
Before the promotion for So Real was even finished, they rushed out I Want to Be With You in 2000.
Which was basically just a compilation, like a quick repackage.
Essentially, yeah, a fast cash compilation. A reissue of So Real with a few new tracks tacked on, designed primarily to serve as her international debut album.
That rapid-fire release schedule sounds exhausting, but I guess it paid off initially.
It did, commercially. The title track, I Want to Be With You, became her first song to actually crack the U.S. Top 40, peaking at number 24. So undeniable commercial success, driven by a label that saw dollar signs and was determined to, milk the teen market before it moved on.
But the very act of rushing out that second album, that seems to create the tension that defines her whole subsequent career, right? What was the critical response to that highly commercial move?
It was damning, and it serves as the ultimate indictment of the numbers game she felt trapped in. AllMusic, reviewing the reissue, did not mince words. They called it trashier, flashier, gaudier, and altogether more disposable than the already critically panned So Real.
Wow. Trashier, that's harsh.
It is. This critique shows the label was actively trying to lower the substance level for a quick cash grab. It's essentially degrading the quality to chase the flavor of the month. That tension disposability versus artistic substance, that's the engine that really powers her pivot.
Okay, so trashier is rough, but it sets up Act 2 perfectly. She realized the pop landscape was getting, homogenized, and she wanted out. She even said something like, all of the music has started to look and sound the same.
Exactly. She was clearly determined to shed that image, even if it meant risking her commercial peak.
And that risk seems pretty immediate and deliberate. Her 2001 self-titled album, Mandy Moore, was a distinct departure, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The sound incorporated up-tempo dance and pop songs, sure. But crucially, it featured influences that were completely outside that top 40 bubble, notably Middle Eastern music, which was really prominent in the single In My Pocket.
So the key wasn't just changing the song style, but changing the whole process. This is where that creative control thing starts to come in.
Precisely. She made an explicit public statement about the shift. No more dancers, no more singing to tracks. She insisted on featuring more live instruments.
That's a fundamental rejection of the synthetic, manufactured sound of bubblegum pop.
It really is. She was demanding credibility. She was trying to mature musically right in front of a very fickle public.
But the truly monumental swing, the big statement, was Coverage in 2003, right? That wasn't just a genre shift. It felt like a conceptual statement.
Totally. It was a collection of covers of 1970s and 80s songs. She was literally using the music of a previous, more respected generation as, armor to shed her teen identity.
Borrowing maturity, basically.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Entertainment Weekly observed that the album was a clear effort to shed her bubblegum blonde image. And commercially, this is where we see the high risk of her shift reflected in the numbers.
Okay, let's break down that commercial paradox, because the sources show kind of mixed results here. Coverage was her highest debuting album, hit number 14 on the Billboard 200. That sounds good.
It does, on the surface.
But if it debuted so high, why was it also her lowest-selling album to date, and the first one not to get an RIAA certification? That seems contradictory.
That paradox is often the result of an audience in transition. The high debut suggests her loyal early fans, or maybe the industry itself, bought in heavily during that first week, front-loaded sale.
Okay.
But the lack of an RIAA certification means the sustained sales, the long tail, just wasn't there. Her teen audience was probably confused by the drastic genre change.
Yeah.
And the new, more sophisticated adult audience she was aiming for hadn't fully materialized yet. It's The cost of transformation, really.
And that cost led directly to her getting the creative independence she craved, but it came with some serious professional friction. Leaving a major label like Epic, that's a huge deal for young
It
artists.
is, and she did it in 2004, specifically over creative differences. That initial departure signaled her absolute rejection of the commercial path they were pushing her down.
But the fight for control didn't stop there, did it?
No, not at all. She signed briefly with Sire Records between 2004 and 2006, only to leave that label for exactly the same reasons. She was fundamentally rejecting the whole structure of the mainstream music machine.
Leaving two major labels in 2 years sounds like potential career suicide for an artist who just found some footing. Was this just a pure gamble on her creative ideals, or did the sources suggest she had, like, a financial cushion from her early success?
It was undoubtedly a gamble, but one fueled by real conviction, it seems. It culminated in 2006 when she signed with the firm Music, which was part of EMI.
Okay.
And she chose this path precisely because she was promised complete control and freedom over her music, rejecting the constraints of the mainstream path entirely.
So controlling collaborators, studio time.
Everything. And most importantly, her songwriting credits. This desire for radical creative autonomy becomes the absolute defining thread that runs through her career from this point forward.
But while she was battling the music industry, she was also quietly building the second foundation in Hollywood, right? The acting pivot sort of cushioned the commercial music transition.
Exactly. The shift started small, relatively speaking. In 2001, she had a minor voice role in Dr. Dolittle 2, and more visibly, that supporting role as the mean rival, Lana Thomas, in The Princess Diaries.
Oh, yeah. Lana Thomas, the quintessential teen movie villainess, right down to singing that cover of Stupid Cupid.
That's the one. It's kind of wild that she played Lana Thomas right before her major dramatic starring role in A Walk to Remember. That's a huge shift in tone and genre within, like, a single year.
A Walk to Remember in 2002 really was the cinematic breakout, wasn't it?
It absolutely was. Her
Yeah.
first starring role, based on let's be honest, notoriously sentimental Nicholas Sparks novel.
Right.
And while the film itself got pretty negative reviews, overall critics called it overly sappy, predictable. They immediately recognized her specific talent. They separated her performance from the quality of the material.
And we have the ultimate testament to that from Roger Ebert, didn't we? He praised her quietly convincing performance. That kind of validation must have meant something.
Oh, for sure. And Moore later called this film her proudest achievement.
And even as she sort of settled into the rom-com genre through the mid-2000s films like How to Deal in 2003, Chasing Liberty in 2004, the sources consistently highlight her charisma. Like, even in maybe mediocre films, her presence stood out.
Yeah, Ebert, again, actually, in his review of Chasing Liberty, he noted she possesses undeniable screen presence and inspires instant affection. She was just someone you wanted to watch, regardless of the script sometimes.
What's fascinating, though, is that having proved she could carry a romantic lead, she then pivoted again, deliberately choosing these non-traditional and sometimes villainous roles that really showcased her range.
Yes, the sources really single out her performance in the 2004 satirical comedy drama Saved. Remember that one?
Vaguely, yeah. Who did she play?
She played Hilary Face Stockard, the seemingly super pious but secretly really judgmental and manipulative teen. Critics just adored her ability to play against type. One review called her a demented delight. This was her proving ground.
A demented delight. I like that.
And she followed that up in 2006, playing the sociopathic reality TV contestant Sally Kendu in American Dreams.
Okay, so that's a back-to-back streak of playing complex, often antagonistic roles.
Right. She actually admitted she enjoyed playing the villain, but was worried it would lead to typecasting, which just shows her willingness to defy expectations and take roles that challenged her artistically.
That newfound confidence and stability in her acting career seems like it provided the perfect environment for her to finally return to music, but completely on her own terms this time.
Exactly. By 2007, the music industry pressure was basically off, and the focus shifted entirely to songwriting.
And this gave us wild hope in 2007. The sources describe this as really acoustic-driven, deeply contemplative, a complete sonic contrast to the synthesized pop of her past.
Totally different vibe. She recorded it pretty much alone in a house up in Woodstock, New York, focusing on collaborations with respected songwriters like Rachel Yamagata and Laurie McKenna.
Even the setting, Woodstock, feels like a statement, right? Moving away from the Hollywood studio system.
It's a literal and sonic statement of authenticity, yeah. Billboard praised the album as the gratifying sound of a singer finally finding her comfort zone. It debuted at number 30, which is pretty respectable for an independent, mature artistic statement like that.
And she followed this up 2 years later with Amanda Lee in 2009.
Yeah.
The title choice for that album feels crucial. Amanda Lee, her birth name. It's like a final, decisive, symbolic rejection of Mandy Moore, the pop star.
Absolutely. She asserted that the music was all a reflection of me now, not somebody else's choices. That statement just perfectly encapsulates the entire previous decade of fighting for control.
And the critics seem to agree, solidifying her new status.
They did. Time magazine called Amanda Lee impeccably recorded, noting the quality and polish. Paper magazine praised her for showing real thoughtful and emotional depth.
But ironically, this high point of artistic control marked the end of her recording output for over a decade, didn't it?
Yeah, pretty much vanished from the music scene after that album. That decade-long pause, roughly 2009 to 2019, coincides with some major personal milestones and a shift into a new phase of high visibility but maybe lower commercial risk media. Which brings us neatly to Act 3, the decade of stability and prestige.
Right. And the first major development there was huge, becoming the voice of a Disney icon.
Yes. In 2010, she was cast as Rapunzel in the massive Disney CGI animated musical fantasy film Tangled.
This was absolutely a defining run. The film was a phenomenal success, grossed over, $590 million worldwide?
Something like that, yes. Massive. But the musical element provided a different kind of validation than her early pop career. She transitioned from being a pop singer to being a highly successful musical theater voice actor.
And the success was critical too, right? Very visible.
Oh, yeah. The song I See the Light, which she performed with Zachary Levi, was Oscar-nominated and actually won a Grammy Award for Best Song Written for Visual Media. This cemented her as a respected vocalist, totally untainted by the manufactured pop sheen of her past. It was like a clean slate musically.
And this role provided immense, steady success and visibility throughout that whole decade. She kept doing the voice, right? In short films, the TV series.
Yep, she continued the role in subsequent short films, like Tangled Ever After, and the successful television series Rapunzel's Tangled Adventure. This really stable base kind of set the stage for the true peak of her critical career.
Which, of course, was This Is Us.
This Is Us, co-starring as Rebecca Pearson from 2016 to 2022. This is the role that finally gave her that undeniable critical validation she'd seemingly worked 2 decades for.
And the character itself was a massive acting challenge. Playing Rebecca across 40 years, that required huge physical transformation with prosthetics and makeup.
Incredible makeup work.
But more importantly, a sustained emotional commitment to portraying this complex, aging matriarch. What did the industry say about that achievement?
The industry spoke pretty loudly through recognition. She earned nominations for both a Golden Globe Award and a Primetime Emmy Award.
Huge nods.
Critically, she was part of the ensemble that won 2 Screen Actors Guild Awards, confirming her place among the elite in television drama. And perhaps most satisfyingly for her, in 2022, she received the TCA Award for Individual Achievement in Drama. That's recognition specifically focused on her singular acting prowess.
Wow. This level of sustained prestige and critical acclaim provided the ultimate professional stability and, crucially, the leverage she needed to revisit her first love music. But again, entirely on her terms.
Exactly. With the commercial pressure totally lifted, she was now a major television star, she began signaling her return. Starting around 2017, she announced her intentions, telling People magazine something like, I want to return to music. Next year, I've decided I'm putting it out there.
And the sources show she made good on that promise. After that decade-long hiatus, she released her first original songs in over 10 years in 2019. Tracks like When I Wasn't Watching and I'd Rather Lose.
Yeah. And this led to the new albums, Silver Landings in 2020 and In Real Life in 2022. And we trace that theme of creative control. The label choice for these new albums is the final compelling piece of evidence. She signed with Verve Forecast.
Why Verve Forecast?
Because, in her words, she felt the label was run by a bunch of deeply creative people who aren't necessarily just concerned with the numbers game.
That phrase, escaping the numbers game, it's not just a throwaway line, is it? It feels like the absolute mantra of her entire post-pop career.
It really is. It's a direct, intentional repudiation of that fast cash, trashy mentality she felt forced into back in 1999.
And her new status was reflected not just in the critics who praised the maturity of these acoustic reflective records, but also in her peers, right?
Totally. The music video for the title track, In Real Life, featured this parade of contemporary stars, her, This Is Us co-stars were in it. Wilmer Valderrama, Hilary Duff, Karamo Brown. It was a statement. She hadn't just escaped the factory. She was now recognized and respected by the people who matter most in modern Hollywood.
She was officially an institution, cemented further, I guess, by receiving her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in March 2019.
Exactly.
Now, to fully appreciate the depth of her resilience and transformation, we really have to look beyond the stage and screen to her personal life and public engagement, because she seems to focus intensely on thoughtful action and managing some pretty profound challenges.
Yeah, her philanthropic work is extensive, and it seems guided by a specific, almost intellectual philosophy. She endorses the philosophy of giving with your head, also known as effective altruism.
Effective altruism, what does that mean in practice?
It basically means focusing resources where they can do the most measurable good, rather than just following an emotional impulse. It's very data-driven.
Okay. How does that philosophy actually manifest in her actions?
We see it in her commitment to global health. She's done significant work with Population Services International, or PSI, focusing on their subsidiary 5 and Alive, which addresses major health crises for children under 5 globally. That targeted approach is characteristic of effective altruism.
And one of her most visible and long-running efforts was as the ambassador for the UN Foundation's Nothing But Nets malaria prevention campaign, right? That's a very targeted global health issue.
It is. The sources note that as part of that campaign, she traveled. She even interviewed the U.S. ambassador to the Central African Republic. She helped the campaign raise, I think, $1.2 million for prevention efforts, specifically through providing insecticide-treated bed nets.
So clearly leveraging her fame not just for general awareness, but for specific, measurable outcomes.
Exactly. Domestically, she also uses her platform for crucial awareness efforts. She served as a spokesperson for Cervical Cancer Awareness Month, worked with the Dove Self-Esteem Movement and their Women Who Should Be Famous campaign.
And she's also deeply engaged in political and social justice causes.
Yes. In terms of her political activity, the sources impartially report that she publicly appeared in that fight song video supporting Hillary Clinton at the 2016 DNC.
Okay.
And endorsed Pete Buttigieg in 2020. She also uses her social media platform pretty consistently to support causes like criminal justice reform and Black Lives Matter. This engagement shows a sustained commitment to using her voice, regardless of the criticism that can sometimes accompany those public stances.
We also have that brief, kind of interesting entrepreneurial venture, her fashion line, Emblem.
Right. From 2005 to 2009, she launched Memblem, which focused on contemporary knitwear and cashmere.
What made that venture notable?
Its focus was specifically on accommodating taller women. Moore herself is 5'10", so it addressed a specific, maybe underserved market need before the line was eventually discontinued. Shows she wasn't afraid to try other creative outlets.
Okay, shifting to her personal milestones. The sources really reveal the duality of a high-profile life intertwined with very real, very human challenges. That decade-long music hiatus we talked about earlier seems framed by some intense personal turbulence.
Yeah, she was married to musician Ryan Adams from 2009 to 2016. After their divorce, Moore was quite public about the relationship, later calling it emotionally abusive.
Right.
And this detail feels crucial because it provides context for that decade-long silence in her songwriting career. When she eventually returned to music with Silver Landings, she was able to kind of reclaim her narrative and her voice.
And she married her current husband, musician Taylor Goldsmith, in 2018. They seem focused on family life now. They have 3 children, including a daughter born just recently, September 2024.
That successful transition to stability seems directly tied to her creative resurgence, doesn't it?
It feels like it. But the personal challenges continued, kind of grounding that in-real-life persona she projects now.
Definitely. In 2019, she revealed ongoing battles with digestive issues and gluten sensitivity, causing chronic fatigue and bloating. And then, more significantly, in August 2022, she was diagnosed with immune thrombocytopenic purpura, or ITP.
ITP, what is that?
It's an incurable, though thankfully treatable, autoimmune disease that severely affects platelet levels.
Wow. Dealing with an incurable diagnosis while anchoring a major TV show and relaunching an international music career, that requires immense mental fortitude.
Absolutely. Which brings us to a very recent and very public challenge she faced.
The fire incident.
Yeah, the sources detail an incident in January 2025 where she faced both intense personal loss and public criticism, like simultaneously. Her home in Altadena, California was ravaged by the Eaton fire. While the structure itself survived, The contents inside were deemed a near total loss due to extensive fire and smoke damage.
Just devastating. And compounding that tragedy, her relative's house burned down completely.
Yes. And she shared a GoFundMe page for her family's losses, which immediately sparked public criticism.
Oh boy, why the criticism?
Well, the backlash was swift, with some critics suggesting a multimillionaire shouldn't be asking for public donations, even if it was for her family, implying she should just shoulder the entire financial burden herself.
That's tricky territory. How did she respond?
Moore's response was a masterclass in modern boundary setting and authenticity, you could say. She responded directly and sharply. She confirmed she was helping her family directly, but told the online haters to kindly F off for scrutinizing her family's tragedy.
Wow, okay.
That moment, using her public voice to defend herself and her family, it ties back perfectly to that theme of creative control, right? She controls the narrative, and she controls the boundaries of public engagement.
Absolutely. It's a stark illustration of the human cost of that kind of high-profile scrutiny. But on a different, maybe more positive high note of physical achievement, the sources also note her immense physical resilience. In 2019, she reached the Everest Base Camp.
Right, an elevation of nearly 17,600 feet. That physical challenge almost mirrors the professional mountain she had to climb, doesn't it?
That's a great way to put it. So the synthesis of all these sources, it paints a picture of a career defined by incredible versatility, but maybe more importantly, this relentless quest for ultimate control and authenticity.
Yeah. Her journey spanned nearly 3 decades, sold 10 million albums worldwide, while achieving really significant critical success in film and television.
And every major professional decision she made, leaving Epic and Sire, doing the cover, album coverage, signing with the firm, later Verve Forecast, it was all explicitly about getting away from that numbers game, wasn't it?
Every single time. Moving toward true artistic substance. The transition from that manufactured teen idol to the acoustic, reflective singer-songwriter she is now is one of the most complete transformations you see in modern entertainment.
This Is Us really became her professional bedrock. That critically acclaimed, highly visible role gave her the stability and the leverage needed to relaunch her independent music career entirely on her own terms, free from commercial pressure.
Totally. The contrast between the, gaudy, disposable pop of her debut and the thoughtful acoustic albums of her adulthood is the clearest measure of her success in achieving that goal.
So if we look at her journey, the transformation is clear. She prioritized authenticity and resilience above almost everything else. But when you couple that professional success with the very real personal challenges revealed in these sources, the emotionally abusive relationship history, the incurable health diagnosis, the near total loss of her home, the intense constant scrutiny, it raises a powerful question for you, the listener.
Yeah, the question really becomes this. What does it truly take for a high-profile public figure, someone constantly scrutinized and often subject to really tone-deaf criticism, to maintain that profound commitment to authenticity, resilience, and creative control when the challenges in real life are so significant and just relentless?
Her longevity seems tied not just to talent, but to this unwavering commitment to shedding the expectations of the past and only engaging with the world on her own fiercely protected terms.
Definitely something to mull over and perhaps explore further. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.